Hey guys, Hikari here, and today I wanted to focus on something that I briefly mentioned in my last video, and I wanted to give my opinions on the theory of Bakugo being the second one for all user due to time travel or certain other different things that people think is going on in the story, but I have my own theory of why Bakugo looks so similar to the second user, and it actually involves the fact that I think that they're actually related and that Bakugo is somebody that was born down the line after the second user, and I feel like that explains why their quirks are going to be probably similar, which I got into in my last video about how the second user's quirk is probably going to be very similar to Bakugo's quirk, and I wholeheartedly think that that would probably be the case, but let's just dive right into the theory and my other points as to why I think this is the case. To address the different people talking about time travel being a possibility, I think this isn't going to be the case, as right now in the story we haven't once got the mention of anything even relating to time travel, and we're already nearing the end of the story, so I don't think Horikoshi is going to just at the last minute add in some type of time travel quirk or some type of time travel plot device into the story. I don't think he's going to do that, and I think we're just going to continue forward with the final fights how we are currently, but he's just going to give us different revelations throughout the fights that don't pertain to time travel or anything in that capacity. I'm also completely opposed to this because time travel, if not done right, can really mess up a series and can make different revelations and different things feel super janky. So I'm completely opposed to him introducing anything relating to time travel, and I hope he does not do anything similar to this. I've also even seen some people say that Eri had some sort of tie-in with this and that the second user actually lived for a while, but somehow Eri was able to rewind him back to being a younger version of himself, which is Bakugo, but I doubt that this is also the case, considering that that would mean that he had to have lived long enough for Eri to even come into contact with him, and that cannot be the case since he lived over, I'm thinking like over 100 something years ago, since I think that's when the whole Quirk stuff happened with All for One, so that would mean that he somehow lived for like 100 something years and didn't die from All for One like we know that he supposedly did, and Eri was able to rewind him. So I feel like that definitely isn't going to be the case, since Eri would have had to somehow gotten in contact with him, and he somehow would have had to have survived back then when he said that All for One killed him and a lot of the other users. As I was saying before though, my theory is something that is very much simple, and it's just that Bakugo is related to the second user, and I feel like this is going to be pretty plausible and way more believable than time travel or Eri having a mention or a plot with him coming back into the story, but we don't really know too much about the second user. All we know is that he died fairly young, but that he was able to pass on the quirk, so I'm thinking that before he passed away, he actually had a child, and he was able to have that child live safely without All for One learning about them, and that child could have lived on and given birth to another child, and that would have started the Bakugo lineage, or, it would have led to Bakugo being born at some point, but I definitely do think that this is plausible that he could have had a kid, and unlike how with Nana's kid or Nana's grandchild, All for One was able to find out about them and directly target them, it could have been that he just really didn't know about the second user's child, and that whole lineage was able to prosper and lead up to Bakugo. I feel like this isn't too implausible, as it would explain why they look so similar, and it makes a lot more sense than Bakugo time traveling or something of that nature. I also want to point out that the second user has some sort of energy releasing quirk, as I theorized in my last video, and I know that many other people in the community think that he's doing something similar. His quirk could be like a very basic version of the explosion type quirk Bakugo has. We know quirk singularity is a big thing in the world of My Hero, and it basically means that throughout the generations of the different people mixing and mashing, it could have turned his original quirk, which is just like a raw energy quirk or a raw explosion, raw beam quirk, it could have turned that into what we have with Bakugo, where it's a more specific nitroglycerin, sweat activated, but very deadly quirk. And I feel like that really is plausible, and it would again let us tie back into that whole quirk singularity theory that we've been getting into a lot in the story, where we know that quirks are morphing and mixing and becoming way more complicated and stronger versions of what they originally were. Another blatant example of this would even be people like Todoroki, who are products of quirks being manipulated and messed around with to get a certain product, but in terms of Bakugo, it would just be a general, just down the lineage, the quirk changed, but you would get the gist of what it means from it, how quirks can start off at something and end off at a different thing at the end. I feel like this theory is very plausible also because it not only explains how their quirks would be similar, it also explains why they look almost the exact same, since they are going to be technically related to each other. And to touch on that a little bit more, I always thought it just isn't normal that they look the exact same. If you look at a lot of Horikoshi's other character designs, like he purposely makes everybody look completely different from each other. There's not too many people in the world of My Hero Academia that even look very similar, so it's just odd that he brings out these characters and they just look blatantly the same. It's as if he just copy and pasted Bakugo and put a scar on him. And I think like he would not do that non-intentionally or just as an accident, just like, oops, I accidentally made a character look similar. I definitely think he's going to try and tie something into the two, since this has never really happened in My Hero. I've never seen somebody blatantly look like another person like that in My Hero, so that's why I definitely do feel it's plausible that they are related and that Horikoshi did this on purpose. I feel like in due time, maybe around the time that we jump back into Deku's fights or Deku fighting anybody or him still traveling, we're going to get different revelations, and it possibly might be that we'll learn the actual family name of the second user, since he's one of the only people I think, or the only person I think in terms of all the All for One or One for All users that we still don't know their name. And I also think this is purely intentional by Horikoshi, the fact that he's the only person right now in the story that we still don't know their name and still barely know anything about. So I just feel like this theory is very plausible for these couple reasons. All in all though, I feel like this theory would be the most plausible way of explaining why Bakugo looks like the second user, which is what a lot of people really want to know right now in the story, and it would explain how I feel their quirks are very similar. Another thing I didn't even really touch on is the fact that the reason why his basic version of the quirk that Bakugo has would be stronger in my eyes is just the fact that it's been sitting in One for All for so long now. We've seen it happen with a lot of the other quirks that One for All has. They've been sitting in there for so many years, fermenting, getting stronger, that they're completely different versions of what they used to use back when they had the quirks, the original users. And we see people like Banjo, the Smokescreen guy, we see them all talk about the fact that the quirks are way stronger than how they were when they were using them. So I feel like it's going to be the same thing with the second user's quirk, where he originally had the quirk and it was just a basic energy releasing beam type quirk or something, but after sitting in One for All for so long, it's technically become an even stronger version of maybe Bakugo's specialized version of what it originally was, just because it's been sitting in there. And we see examples of this, the fact that Black Whip is literally just a better version of Sero's tape, so we know it's possible for certain quirks to just completely outshine something else that exists in the world. Only time will tell though, but I definitely think that this is something that's going to be going on with the quirk. I really wanted to discuss this theory with you guys in the comments though, since this is something that I really wholeheartedly feel is going to be the case, and I do want to hear everybody's different takes on what they feel is actually going on with this quirk, or if you guys do agree with me on the fact that it's probably him being related to Bakugo. I really want to know what you guys have to say, and I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it though, and subscribe, as I do a lot of these different type of discussion videos, and I'm going to be doing another Black Clover one pretty soon. But I do a lot of discussion videos where I just talk to you guys about different things I feel are going on in the series. So if you like that type of video, just subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate all of the support. But with that, I'm going to be heading out. So thank you for watching, and peace.